Alright, guys, I'm back with another chapter in 1 Samuel. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 30, where the header reads, David destroys the Amalekites. And we'll get right into it. 3 days later, when David and his men arrived home at their town of Ziklag, they found that the Amalekites had made a raid into the Negev and Ziklag. They had crushed Ziklag and burned it to the ground. They had carried off the women and children and everyone else, but without killing anyone. When David and his men saw the ruins and realized what had happened to their families, they wept until they could weep no more. David's two wives, Ahinoam from Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel, were among those captured. David was now in great danger because all his men were very bitter about losing their sons and daughters, and they began to talk of stoning him. But David found strength in the Lord his God. Then he said to Abiathar, the priest, "Bring me the ephod." So Abiathar brought it. Then David asked the Lord, "Should I chase after this band of raiders? Will I catch them?" And the Lord told him, "Yes, go after them. You will surely recover everything that was taken from you." So David and his 600 men set out, and they came to the brook Besor. But 200 of the men were too exhausted to cross the brook, so David continued the pursuit with 400 men. Along the way, they found an Egyptian man in a field and brought him to David. They gave him some bread to eat and water to drink. They also gave him part of a fig cake and 2 clusters of raisins, for he hadn't had anything to eat or drink for 3 days and nights. Before long, his strength returned. "To whom do you belong, and where do you come from?" David asked him. "I'm an Egyptian, the slave of an Amalekite," he replied. "My master abandoned me 3 days ago because I was sick. We were on our way back from raiding the Kerethites in the Negev, the territory of Judah, and the land of Caleb, and we had just burned Ziklag. The Negev, we have just burned Ziklag. Will you lead me to this band of raiders?" David asked. The young man replied, "If you take an oath in God's name that you will not kill me or give me back to my master, then I will guide you to them." So he led David to them. And they found the Amalekites spread out across the fields, eating and drinking and dancing with joy because of the vast amount of plunder they had taken from the Philistines and the land of Judah. David and his men rushed in among them and slaughtered them throughout that night and the entire next day until evening. None of the Amalekites escaped except 400 young men who fled on camels. David got back everything the Amalekites had taken, and he rescued his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, small or great, son or daughter, nor anything else that had been taken. David brought everything back. He also recovered all the flocks and herds, and his men drove them ahead of the other livestock. "This plunder belongs to David," they said. Then David returned to the brook Besor and met up with the 200 men who had been left behind because they were too exhausted to go with him. They went out to meet David and his men, and David greeted them joyfully. But some evil troublemakers among David's men said, "They didn't go with us, so they can't have any of the plunder we recovered. Give them their wives and children and tell them to be gone." But David said, "No, my brothers, don't be selfish with what the Lord has given us. He has kept us safe and helped us defeat the band of raiders that attacked us. Who will listen when you talk like this? We share and share alike, those who go to battle and those who guard the equipment." From then on, David made this a decree and regulation for Israel, and it is still followed today. When he arrived at Ziklag, David sent part of the plunder to the elders of Judah, who were his friends. "Here is a present for you, taken from the Lord's enemies," he said. The gifts were sent to the people of the following towns David had visited: Bethel, Ramoth Negev, Jatir, Auror, Sifmoth, Eshtemoa, Rakal, the towns of the Jeremites, the towns of the Jeremites, the towns of the Kenites, Hormah, Borashan, Athash, not sure, Hebron, and all the other places David and his men had visited. And that is the end of chapter 30, guys. So there's definitely a couple things that I definitely like. I guess like is probably too strong a word, not the most accurate word, that I can appreciate that they mentioned in this passage. One being just the burden of leadership. Something went wrong, and they felt it strong enough to mention that the men thought about stoning him to death. David, the fact that he had led them down any road that would lead to the fact that lead to the result of anything happening to their home at all. And so he had nothing to do with that, but the fact that they weren't there to defend them, they would have taken it out on David. And not only that, but then through all that frustration and through all those trials, chasing down the Amalekites and eventually catching up with them and getting everything that they had lost back and whatever else that they plundered from the men, the Amalekites, David still had enough love and grace in his heart to have love for the people that couldn't keep up, that couldn't join him. Say, no, you guys agreed to be with us, and you're not going to get less just because you couldn't offer more. You gave us everything, and because you had to stop because of exhaustion, you didn't have anything left to give. I'm still thankful that you're willing to stand with me. And so he set that as a precedence, as no, whether you're here, you're guarding equipment, whether you go to battle, if you play any part in the victory, you will play a part in the spoils of the war. And that takes a lot for a leader to be able to recognize, because sometimes those that do more expect more, and they don't realize that, no, you're a part of the victory. They are too. Now, you might feel like you played more of a role, but you'll realize how much everyone is needed when a certain aspect falters because someone wasn't there to do it. And it might lead to your downfall, regardless of your efforts, if you don't have those other people to love and support. And so, no, there's definitely two fantastic points of leadership in this passage that I absolutely love. So on that note, have a good night. God bless. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'll be back for chapter 31, the last chapter of 1 Samuel, where the header reads, the death of Saul. And on that note, have a good night. God bless, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.